Let's see if it's recording. I don't see it, and it looks like we're recording now. So welcome everyone to the fourth session of our HyperDoc series. And this is what's important because people are asking, where's the first session? I didn't go to the second session. That is fine because there's going to be a whole new 4 sessions starting next week. And then they'll have in fact, they don't even have a week off for Independence Day. I guess they are just working me to the bone. But so if this is your first session and you're like, whoa, I like what they're talking about, you can come to those other sessions. I've tried to make them consistent and make them on Thursdays at 3. So Thursdays at 3, I've got a HyperDoc session. But the ones after that, so I'm gonna have another 3 or 4 after that, I'm gonna try and do in the morning so I can get the European people who, right now it's midnight. And although we've had Europeans come. I am going to ask you to scroll over to the toolbar and go to the 2 people where it says show participants. And then I'm going to ask you to come up to me and then the 3 dots once you get to me, there'll be 3 dots on the right-hand side. I'm going to have you pin me so that you can always see these slides. And then I'm going to find Lisa Highfill somehow in here, and I'm going to make her there we go. I'm going to make her a presenter. And you can also pin her now that she's a presenter. And then I'm going to mute a few of you. You are welcome to unmute yourself. Let's see if I can just mute you all. You might all be muted. And then we're going to get started. So just remember, oh, wow, a lot of you are actually here. Thank you for coming. So just remember, if you really like what you hear about HyperDocs, we will have the first 3 sessions again starting next Thursday at 3 p.m. And if you're busy and next Thursday you're getting ready for the 4th of July, I promise to record that one. I think the other one is recorded possibly, and they are up on the Q site. So if you go back to Infuse, and let me put this in the chat. If you go back to infusedlink.q, kind of look around on that site and they'll have access to the YouTube channel, and then you'll probably just have to look for them. I couldn't find stuff very easily on there. And I'm going to mute someone. I don't know who that's coming from. Lisa, that's not you, is it?
No.
Okay. Yeah, no?
No, it's not.
Okay. So let me find that person. Or if you're a person, maybe just mute yourself. And I think they must have found out that they're, yes. Okay. So we are going to start. And to get to this session, if you want to, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. If you want to get to the session, you can go to Infused Link. And I can't see because I have my sharing thing right above it. What does it say? Does it say last session?
Yeah, infused.link/last session.
It has some of the tools on top of the stuff. So we're going to be talking about, because we've talked about what a HyperDoc is, we've looked at what a doc with links is, which is not a HyperDoc, and we're going to review that in here. And then last session, we kind of went in and broke down a HyperDoc so that you could understand it better, because it takes a lot of planning, not too much, but it takes some planning, some lesson design to do this correctly. So we're trying to help people see this. But before we begin, I want to give you the opportunity, if you want to find out about more of these sessions or want to see what Lisa and the HyperDocs girls are up to, because I talk about it a lot in my email, you can get on the weekly, and it says with bi-weekly tips. I do not send those out twice. Sorry, I need to change that. It should have said bi-monthly. But right now, because of summertime, I'm sending them out weekly. And if something new comes out with HyperDocs, or they release something, or something new comes out from Infused Classroom, you're the first to find out. So you can get into that email list by going to infuse.link/tips. And I'll make sure to change the wording on that soon. I try not to send out too many emails, not because I don't want to, it's because I don't have time. So I want to introduce myself in case you are new to this. I'm Holly Clark, and I am the author of the Infused Classroom, I guess, series now, because we have the Microsoft Infused Classroom, we have the Google Infused Classroom, and it's on pre-order, and I haven't even announced it in public, but the Chromebook Infused Classroom is now on pre-order. So that's coming out. And actually, I'm most excited about that. I think it's my best work. Yeah, hopefully other people agree. Anyway, so I'm going to let Lisa, who is joining me today, introduce herself. But before she does, I want to say that Lisa is my thought partner. And most things I do pedagogically. I don't do anything or put anything out without usually checking with Lisa first. Do you agree with this? What do you think about this? And Lisa is the founder, along with two other great ladies who did the other two sessions, Sarah Landis and Kelly Hilton, of HyperDocs. And they have a HyperDoc handbook and all kinds of stuff that Lisa's going to tell you about right now, as well as introduce herself. So Lisa, take it over.
Thanks, Holly. You're so sweet. We are thought partners whenever we're thinking about lesson design or delivering lessons or anything to do with education. We call each other and toss things around. Anyone else a geek like that? In my head all the time. I can't watch anything anymore without thinking, oh, that'd make a great lesson, or I should capture that video or something. I am Lisa Heitfeld. I've been a fifth grade teacher in Pleasanton Unified, which is in the San Francisco East Bay. I was a fifth grade teacher for 20 years, and then found a new calling within the district. I'm now the instructional technology coach, tech integration coach. And I absolutely love working with adults, and I've been doing that for the last 6 years. So it's giving me a really wide perspective. I work with teachers from kindergarten through 12th grade, and I get to work with their students, which is the best part. And my passion is lesson design to solve a lot of our problems. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today with Holly. So please interrupt, please ask questions. I've got the chat open, and I won't get too distracted by it. I'll watch, and I'll try to drive what I'm talking about to meet your needs today. So. And
also, I'll be, when you ask questions, I'll be asking and interrupting Lisa and saying, hey, we have a question about this. But I want to make sure for those people who are new that you understand, or at least know my philosophy on this. As we go into remote learning, I could not do remote learning without packaging it in a HyperDoc or a multimedia tech set, something that we spend a whole session on. And we'll do 2 weeks from now if you want to see more about that. But Lisa will talk about it. But this is a way to keep things organized, to keep kids having ownership of their learning, to put a lesson into a package that helps drive passions, as we were talking about before, inquiry, questioning, agency for the student to get their work done. So for me, I'm talking a lot about HyperDocs right now. And I even have to call Lisa and say, I don't mean to take over your thing, but there's just nothing better than this for remote learning. And she knows I call her and text her all the time, apologizing because I don't want her to think I'm trying to be the fifth HyperDoc girl.
I agree.
Or it's not even fifth.
She kind of is. She kind of is. But Holly, one thing I wanted to let you know, someone had asked earlier for a link to the slides, and I went to that link that you had posted, and it went just to your website, if there's any way for people to easily access the slides. Okay. I hadn't talked to you about that. They are loaded with links today for you to explore. So maybe in the chat.
Well, I'm going to put this back in, and someone tell me if this doesn't work, because it's the one I made for this. If I did it wrong, I'll go back in while she's talking. Right. But that was it, right? Let me see. Let me just try myself really quickly before we go in. And nope, this one takes you, so we're good there. Okay. At least it takes me because I'm signed in.
All right. And I see I can control the slides. Thank you for giving me some control here.
I didn't.
No, I know, but I may ask you to click on links on the slides if that's okay. All right, thank you. So if that's okay, if I just go ahead and move on.
Yeah.
All right. So for those of you who are new to HyperDocs or even reviewing, we all can learn so much every time. Every time I look at this and talk to new people, it really helps to review a little bit. This is an actual HyperDoc. This was a math HyperDoc. It was created for middle school students. And we took The before, I should have a before picture, was just a sheet of problems, word problems for kids. And when you Xerox copy that and give, or put it in classroom and give that to kids, we were watching them in the classroom and they were so stuck. And the first thing they were doing was like looking to their partners to see who had the right, all they wanted was the right answer. All I wanted as the teacher was them to understand proportional reasoning, like to really get that mathematical sense. And I was realizing that I was feeding the beast in the classroom because the work that I was giving them was all about compliance, all about completion, all about getting it done on time and turned in. And it wasn't about getting that learning to stick. And it's really comes down to how I designed that lesson. And so we started to create these digital lessons that the kids don't know they are packed with all this intention and purpose. This one is specifically designed with UDL strategies in mind, and thinking about how can we help learners who really struggle. And so, I'm not going to read all of these squares. You can come back to this and really examine this. Though. And we started to break it down. It begins with the cycle of learning. And the cycle of learning is really about getting kids to explore before you explain a concept. I wanted them to play. I changed the words here: wonder, play, review, and then practice. I wanted them to play with the concept of proportional reasoning and then ask them, you tell me what proportional reasoning is. And then I can adjust my lecture from there. I can revise their understanding. I can say, wow, you guys really get this. I'm moving ahead. Or I can take them to a new higher level because of that. This is just one example. I love this template. I'm just going to say right now for the math teachers in the room, because I saw someone was already asking about that. This is a great template for you to file, make a copy, take off the term proportional reasoning and put your mathematical term there and look at the parts of it and say, why did she design this here? Well, I labeled why I designed what there. And how can you redesign that for your students? Because it has to be personalized for the people who are in front of you. Now, I'm going to get to that in today's lesson, but let's keep going, because I was on with Holly when we did multimedia tech sets, right, Holly? Wasn't I?
Mm-hmm. Well, you were in the beginning.
Yeah.
Sarah Landis did it with us too.
Okay. Now, oops. You know what? It's
one more.
No, it's not letting me. Yeah. Can you click it to have them? I guess it's animated. It's not letting them show up. They are a mystery.
Oh, mine show up in my I think I'm seeing them.
You are?
I'm seeing both the long walk to water and what is a refugee.
Okay, now I'm seeing them. Okay. So these are multimedia tech sets, everyone, and they are not HyperDocs, so nothing like confusing everyone right away. A multimedia tech set is any kind of document, any kind of Word document, any kind of graphic organizer that you create, that you curate all of your best links. All of your, I always like to say, curate your lecture. This is a great way to break up your lecture. This is something that if I wanted to teach kids about refugees in order to build background knowledge for a unit coming up in history, I would make one of these first. And I would teach the kids to use their inquiry, their curiosity, and their quest for learning, their thirst for knowledge, to explore this at their own rate and pace in order to build that background knowledge before I explain what a refugee is. I want to have them have that opportunity. It's that inquiry learning where it activates that cognitive thinking right away, instead of that passive learning where the students would come in and say, just tell me what to do. Just sit down and give it to me. And the kids at first, they really hated this, but I call these the gateway to HyperDocs because it really teaches them how to learn with these digital lessons. Instead of it being something to get through, I put in way more links on that doc than I would ever expect kids to get through. And that's a weird concept for them. I would say, there's one link on this document in the top right corner, that explore, that map. I could spend all my time in there and learn so much about refugees just in one square. And that's important for kids to follow their curiosities. If I'm reading a novel with my students and I want to build background knowledge for that novel, like A Long Walk to Water, this is another type of tech set that we use to build that thinking before we read. These are for exploring. They are not the whole lesson. Now, a HyperDoc, this is a template for it, is the whole lesson. So HyperDoc, and again, let me click one more time. There we go. You'll see.
No, when you click, it doesn't do it.
Oh.
So just so you know. And so now I'm on the template. Is that good?
Yeah. With the circle, right?
Okay. No, I'm not in the circle yet.
There
we go. Got it.
Okay, thank you. So maybe it's, yeah, when I'm doing it's not. So this is our HyperDoc. This is what our whole book is based upon, with this cycle of learning. And we keep talking about that because it's so important that we don't create documents that are just a to-do list, just a task to get through. And not that there's anything wrong with that. And you don't have to do HyperDocs 100% of the time. Sometimes we just need to give them tasks to get through. But when you want a lesson to really stick, when you want it to be one of your special units or something to really teach in depth, especially like moving during this remote instruction time from assigning to instructing, you would build a HyperDoc. And it's all built off of this cycle of learning, which begins with engaging students. You remember lesson planning, right? We haven't probably talked about this since credential programs. It begins with engagement. Then we get to explore, explain, apply. And I have a circle around that because that is the heart of our lessons. That if you don't have time for the engagement or the sharing or the reflecting, then at least start with explore first, then explain, then apply that knowledge. And that's really the key to a HyperDoc. What makes it different than a digital worksheet is that we are activating that thinking through exploration. Then we get to the explanation of the concept, and then we have kids apply that knowledge. So that's the key. I mean, this is like the heart of HyperDocs right there. Our book is broken down into these sections to help you with how to build that engage portion on a HyperDoc. And that's kind of what the whole handbook idea is, something you go back and refer to. But I'm going to give you lots of examples here. This is good for you to explore on your own. I don't want to get into too much. I'm just going to summarize this. You can see this, right, Holly?
So I went away to go get the book, but we're still on the circle. Do I go to the next one?
Yeah. I guess it's only, okay.
Yeah, just tell me to go to the next one.
Click take control.
I think it was wrong. I don't think you did.
Okay. Okay, so on this graphic,
I mean, you could, but
I'm on tech sets to HyperDocs here.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people call everything HyperDocs these days, and I'm not too picky. I'm a teacher, right? I was like, it's okay. You're okay. If you really, I mean, you came to the course and you're here with us, so you got the word from me. If it's just a to-do list with links, it is not a HyperDoc. The HyperDoc has that cycle of learning of explore, then explain, then apply. So if you're seeing tech sets, it's only the exploration. It's just a bunch of links to explore. There's no nothing for them to do with it. There's no so what, now what? Now that I know this, what do I do with it? And today I'm going to show you just all amazing HyperDocs. If you want to go to the next slide, then that'd be great.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm on it.
Okay, so there's a lot of instructions here about how to create these and the 5 steps to them. And I'm going to, again, summarize this with my thinking and how I do it. To be honest, when I figure out what I want to make a HyperDoc about, or what do I make for a HyperDoc, it's usually stemming from, I might think about, especially I'm helping my teachers in my district think about what big units do they have coming up this year that they really know they have to teach, and they're worried about this. Am I in class? Are they out of class? Distance learning. I would make a HyperDoc of that unit, of that lesson. So it can be done in class, it can be done remotely, but you've got this packaged, complete, wonderful lesson in one place. Maybe you teach novels during the year. I would definitely HyperDoc your novel and make a whole complete lesson around that novel, because it really is something that you can use anywhere. I sometimes make HyperDocs because I'm inspired by something I've seen on the internet, or maybe I saw a great video and I was really moved by it. I tend to do a lot of HyperDocs based off of videos because I love good videos. You notice I haven't said content or standards, and that's because I make a HyperDoc with multiple layers to it. And I try to put in as many content standards as possible into one HyperDoc. Now, proportional reasoning is different. That was one mathematical standard. But if I'm doing anything with history, you bet I've got reading, writing, I've got all sorts of content standards embedded in that. So I'm not saying to not use those. I'm not saying to not use your textbooks. I use those as resources as well. We can go to the next slide. That would be,
sure, that was awesome.
yeah. Well, so here's some examples, and I'm going to take a breath here. If you are clicked in, I want you to click on one that interests you or that you're curious about for any reason. These range from kindergarten till 12th grade. They're HyperDocs for every grade level. And I hope you can all click on one. And I want you to be thinking about, what do you notice about these HyperDocs? What appeals to you? What do you think about for your learners in this one? What would be appealing for them? If you want to put what you notice about the ones you're doing, put your comments in the chat here. I'm just following along that chat. Yes, Kathy, lots of images. Our students are such visual learners. That can be so helpful. And then if you want to talk about one specifically, feel free to mention which one you're talking about, because yeah, the graphics are really great on a lot of these. Yes, Christine, Wakelet is a great format for it. And actually, I speak with the Wakelet creators often, and it's coming. Oh, wait, maybe I shouldn't say that. They're going to be.
Is what?
They're going to release something new to help out with HyperDocs on Wakelets. So
I don't even know this.
You don't. I didn't tell you this. I know. But you know how in Wakelet everything's all in one section? We might have categories we can put them in. Because I said, "Where's my Explorer?" So the kids know, do this, do this. So anyway.
Stop it. When's this coming?
Hopefully by August. So I'm hearing really great things you're noticing. You can, if you have these slides, I think they're all linked up if you click on them. Yes, they allow student voice. They're aesthetically pleasing, very much so. I like to appeal to my students' curiosity by having it look good. And you know how we figured this out? My boys were in high school when we started HyperDocs, and I would show them lessons, and I would show them a big document with just all typing on it, like syllabus or a lesson, traditional lessons. And then I would show them a HyperDoc. I'm like, which one do you want to do? This one or this one? Every time they picked the HyperDoc. And they did let me know that they thought it was because it was less work. I mean, truth be told, but it wasn't.
Oh, sorry, keep going because it's a good story.
Yeah, no, that's it.
And I'm curious to hear what you guys might think about which of these do you go to first and why, and which one are you not that into and maybe why? Because there might be some people who don't go to the one that has a gray background and looks less interesting than, like for me, my learning style, I go to Humans of New York. I'm like, what's behind the wall there?
You all should start your year with that one. You talk about building community. So check out Humans of New York and you put in Humans of Pleasanton or Humans of your school name and imagine that.
Yeah. Or Humans of Cajon Valley would be really interesting, like El Cajon.
That is a great lesson Kelly made. So I think that that's something that you really could do. We really need to be thinking about how can we build community, as we're starting with remote learning. Lisa, do you have a question? I think I saw your hand raised.
Yeah. Like this new hand raise thing is all new to me.
Okay, well, if not, you can just interrupt, Lisa, if you want, okay? I see you saw the coin one. This is one of our favorite creators, Nadine Gilkison, and this is a kindergarten lesson. So I see ways I would remake that one, to be honest. I really love in slides are where you can have the images and let kids have their own copy and move the coins to create a dollar. So I think I would, she linked it to a website, which is good too. I mean, it's all in the resources you have in front of you. But I have seen them where teachers have done images of coins along the side and then asked them to make different combinations. It's kind of cool. So, you know, when I look at these HyperDocs, it's like when I look at a recipe on Pinterest, I never can follow it. I always have to like add something, take something out.
Some kids, if they can get their grade, that's their motivation. And
is there a question here?
oh,
I'll go and yeah.
And what so and so's doing and da 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 da.
Okay, we're listening in on your conversation. So the bees was one that I did. It was a 7th grade research project, actually, that kind of was the prequel to doing 20 time in the classroom, because we tried doing 20 time in the classroom with middle schoolers and they're like, I don't know what to do. Nobody had a good idea. And so we realized we have to teach kids how to come up with good ideas. And this was a whole thing to inspire good ideas. And finally,
I'm trying to find it. Sorry.
Can you help? Can you mute there?
Yeah, I'm trying.
Okay.
I think I got it.
Yeah. So that one is really easy to adapt. It includes a whole playlist of videos that I have found that I thought were good ideas. And I know you guys should see them. There's some really clever videos. And now I'm going to lose y'all, right? Because now you want to go see. Because now you're curious. And that's what happened in the classroom is the last 2 weeks of school with 7th graders. And we could not get them to stop because all they wanted to do was watch the videos and say, oh my gosh, that's such a good idea. And what if you did this? And then we just sat with the kids. Instead of up lecturing, we sat with the kids and talked to them and elevated them with what are their good ideas. Now, I put on a very plain one on here. And that one is websites, navigating and features. Anyone look at that one? Oh, yes. The least visually appealing is navigating a website. Yes, Janelle said that. I'm glad you said that because sometimes these HyperDocs, they look labor intensive to make. And this teacher just wanted to teach this lesson very quickly. She made this the night before. She did not take very long, but she realized that she spent time, she's a 3rd grade teacher, and any elementary teachers in the room here know that part of teaching reading is teaching text features. But we cannot assume that our students understand features of a website and how to navigate that website and how to learn from websites. And so that was an important lesson that I think sometimes we skip over those. Oh, it's not pretty and it's not in depth. It was one day. It was just a really great one to get in, get out is what I call it. And I love that she didn't go too fancy on that. Book bentos is not an edu protocol. I actually, this is my very first HyperDoc about book bentos. I did not invent them. I saw them on Instagram and was like, I love that. I need to get my students making those. It was just a picture I saw on Instagram. The girl already was doing, she just did them. And I thought, I want my students to do them. So I made a HyperDoc to teach them how to do it. I didn't know how to make a book bento. I just made that up. So yes, people have evolved. You'll see different versions. I think Amanda Sandoval has made a beautiful version of it. And I actually am kind of loving her version more than my version, but I shouldn't say that because I did this with another teacher and I'm just gonna, you know, I'm not here to critique necessarily how they design. For our anti-racist education and learning how to bring in culturally responsive topics, the one here, the 4th of July one, it talks about Juneteenth, and we just had a big show. I saw someone was there with me, with Nadia Razi, who's a teacher in our district, and learning how to bring in these topics into more coursework, into pretty much a lot of what we're doing. So anyway, if we can go on to the next slide. Yeah.
Sure, but can I say something, Lisa?
Yeah, yeah.
So we were just talking about that Juneteenth one and then Nadia, how she made that one. And I would just want to put a shout out that on your Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to Facebook and then you just look up HyperDocs and join their group. And if you say that you were here today, it makes it easy. Lisa can let you write in because a lot of people come every day. If you go there, she has a video where Nadia kind of talks to you about how she made this and the process she went through in thinking about designing this book study. And whether or not you're doing a book study, you might be doing math. It's not really about the book, it's about the design of the HyperDoc, and it's really laid out well. I was so obsessed with her that Matt Miller and I have a show that we do together, and we brought her on twice already. We'll probably have her on again.
She's amazing. She is an amazing creator. So, and she teaches high school English and African American literature. So she is well versed and practiced at making these awesome lessons. So if you go to the next slide.
I did. I'm on each sheet and leave.
It's me. Okay. I need to. There we go. Now this one, I'm not going to play the video. This actually on the right side, Teaching with HyperDocs, is a video. And I do encourage you to watch this later, because a lot of times people say, I made this HyperDoc and it was a big flop. The kids hated it. I didn't know, do I just hand it out and they just go through it themselves and then they were done in like 2 minutes? Well, I wanted to show how to teach with a HyperDoc. And so actually the teacher who made that navigating websites, she also made this one, this comma lesson. And Holly, if it's possible, I'd love for you to scroll or click on that comma lesson and open it. Is that possible?
I'll have to share my screen, but that is no big deal. Just give me a sec.
Okay. So I can talk just a minute about this.
Okay.
And this is where you get into this decision about what topic do I want my students to use or create a HyperDoc with. And so she decided she really wanted comma rules to start sticking with the kids. How many of you teach grammar and it's in one ear and out the other? They do not, it's just not sticking. Oh, good, I see it. So she started, now she did not put the labels explore, explain, apply on here, but the very first thing was exploration. And she did this together in parts, and you'll see it in the video if you watch it later, about how she explored and let them, yeah, it was a little less.
Sorry, I went to the video and that was a presentation fail. Yeah. Go ahead.
About, you know, the comma song and when to use a comma. And then she asked the kids, what did you learn? What did you wonder? And she took the notes, whole class. She pulled the kids to the carpet, and I kind of love that strategy. Then she goes down, and I'm not going to get into this one, all of the lesson. If you scroll down though, Holly, the kids do an activity, and this is the activity right there. But I want you to scroll down because this is the part that I don't get to in the video. So you get a little bonus here. At the bottom, there's part 2. And if you click on the commas, 5-minute fun.
Do you want me to?
Yeah. So this was part 2. This was like the next lesson after this.
Ooh. And
she had the kids, she had like 2 iPads in the classroom. Like she didn't have a lot of resources. She had them, she used her phone too. The kids could use her phone. They had to go searching for commas in their reading books, in the books in the classroom. They had to then take a picture and use an app that they were using the app over to annotate where the comma is and circle where the comma is. Then she had them, 3rd graders, you guys, load it onto this doc and sort it in this chart underneath the correct rule. I'm not kidding you. She's like, okay, well, here are the rules. You found a sentence, put it in the column that matches the rule. And I looked at her during this lesson. I'm like, you're so mean. This is so hard. How are you having to do this? I mean, they're 3rd graders and they had to sort for a positives. Look at that, a positive rule. And she's like, no, don't worry about it. Watch this. So she comes to the carpet after they did this and they got them all in the chart. She goes, they're going to get them all wrong. It's okay. She's like, but they did all the work for me. Now the learning starts. So they all came to the carpet and she starts rearranging their pictures. They're like, is this in the right spot? Well, let's check. They read the sentence, they read the rules together as a class, and they start moving. And they only had the attention span for like 3. And then they the next day they did maybe 2 more. And I'll tell you guys, this was the stickiest lesson I've ever seen. And maybe in the comments here, you can say, what do you think was about this lesson that made this stick?
3rd graders. I can't see the comments and I'm dying.
These 3rd graders,
I'm coming back
weeks later, in in their own writing would say, this needs a comma because it is a series of 3. I mean, they were like spouting off the rules for this. The key to this, I asked her, Kathleen, when she made this lesson, because she wanted to get away from, the circle which one is correct or fill in the blank, our workbooks, because nothing was sticking. I said, well, why are you teaching kids commas? And she says, because I wanted to transfer to their writing. I said, well, how are they going to get that to transfer? Well, they had to do that connection of looking in their own reading books and starting to notice commas everywhere. So she couldn't read a book from then on without them pointing out, oh, look at that comma. Oh, wait, what is that rule? Oh, wait. And she couldn't believe this. But yes, they were correcting their own mistakes. When we have that saying that failure is the first attempt at learning, or whatever poster you might have. She really lives that in this classroom. And it's all about that you make the mistake. It wasn't even a mistake. The kids were so open to not being right, that it was just a part of the culture in the classroom that I was just amazed with. So if you want to go back to the slides, that's what I'm
going to do. But I want to bring up that in the slides that I'm going to bring up right now, there is the video where you film the kids. And I think you're probably going to talk about this.
Yeah, I wasn't going to, the kids were amazing in this, and their thoughtfulness and their, but I don't think we should play that video.
No. But it's fun. And when I show this to teachers, Lisa, they love the on tech, off tech.
Yes.
Because so like a lot of people think when you're in a HyperDoc, you're just on tech all the time.
Yes.
And this really helps exemplify that it's not that way.
Well, and for teachers who don't have a lot of tech in their classroom, this teacher and myself, I'm a strong believer in 3-to-1. You guys, this is all going to be weird navigating this 3-to-1 device when we have to sit 6 feet apart. But keep the pedagogy. We'll get through this time. The 3-to-1 was amazing. They have elbow partners, and she has them do everything 3 times. So it's pretty powerful that way.
So we had a question about how do you think we're going to do the on-off tech when we're remote? And Lisa, I'll let you answer that.
I'm actually that's my next HyperDoc.
Oh, cool.
Coming up. Yes. So we have this document here about 3 ways to get started, because let's get on to how we're going to do this for remote learning, because that's what you need to know right now. And Holly, if you'd click one more time, I want you to focus on this one. I really, if you're taking our courses, we really get into detail about starting from scratch or using a template. But for now, if you are beginning, I highly recommend step 2. Actually, I use it all the time. And if you go to the next step, I want to show you, or it's in the next slide, I'm sorry.
I'm trying to get there. Oh, there we go.
Here we go. So this is an example of one, and I actually did a workshop on this. If you saw me speak for Q, this was spring Q. We kind of talked about this. The one on the left there is a HyperDoc that I made a long time ago, and it was really inspired by that video at the top, the boy, the cardboard box. I really loved that video, and I kept thinking, I have got to make a HyperDoc around this. And this HyperDoc has evolved so many times and changed. It is an elementary one, but you'll see that I have broken it down on the right. You can see the explore, explain, apply sections. And Lori, while it does remind us of a web quest, it's very different from a web quest in a lot of ways. We actually wrote a course about that, how a HyperDoc is not a web quest. Because a web quest, well, I don't want to get into too much detail about what those are, but this is actually like just a complete standalone lesson where we don't take on roles all the time. Although I guess you could. In this one though, on the right side, I have shifted this for how do I adapt this HyperDoc for remote learning? Because earlier I was like, turn and talk, share your thinking about the video. And so I'm like, oh, I have to file and make a copy of this. I need to really change this up so that it is a little bit more effective for this time period. And so you watch the video, but I want them to hear each other's thinking. So that's why I thought a Padlet would be a really good choice. So they could do asynchronous replies, where they could watch it anytime they wanted and then share their thinking. And I could go in and see over time in that explore portion, to what degree are they getting it? Now that video is so good. And if you haven't seen it, it's very powerful. And it's very high level. Like you can show it to your high schoolers and they probably won't get it. Because I always ask the kids, who does the box represent? And they're like, what? The box is the box. I'm like, is it? So, sometimes
I just put in the link, Lisa, to this because I think some people have just joined, and so this way they can get onto this PowerPoint and go into those boxes.
Oh, good. Thank you. So, you know, and how many of you now, because I just started to describe this, how many of you now want to go to this HyperDoc and watch that video? That's a big part of these. It's the delivery. It's that building that curiosity, Vanessa. Yes. And like I can tell Eskimo sometimes because I just have this, you know, you just want to build that curiosity and that passion. You want to be able to say, you know, you want to know this, you want to dive into this and to learn more. But you have to adapt this for good instruction when you're not with them. I left a lot of that second section. I felt like it could be a good journal entry, like a written piece. I wanted to integrate writing standards here because I knew I needed to incorporate multiple standards, not just a single layer. So that changed up. I elevated that a bit. And then at the bottom, the apply, the instructions were.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to grab our Google version of this.
Oh, yeah.
So that, and I just have to share it. And I know, I'm not sure if you were asking me to go on.
I did share it earlier because I thought maybe.
The Google? Oh, you did? Okay. So people are just coming in and the chat won't have it. But here's the Google one. If you are not able to get to the links, which is something I need to understand if that's true. Okay. Do you need me to move to the next one?
No, I just was going to say at the end, I really, because it was about cardboard and the center was nothing to do. And it was really a perfect thing for remote learning because it was all about kids being bored and having to stay home. And what do I do? It's such a great book. And I actually had done that, a video version of that book a long time ago. But at the end, you know, I had to do Kane's Arcade, right? How many of you have done Kane's Arcade? And I really needed to change this and make sure that this HyperDoc is equitable. I could not assign things and say, oh, you need this material, this material, this material, because I wasn't providing that in the classroom. I really needed to provide materials and instructions that I knew everyone could have. And so I actually want to go back and revise this one more time. Holly, could you maybe click on the next slide? Because it is the revised HyperDoc.
Wait, whoa.
There it is. And it's to the right. So it looks totally different. It's got the red, so I know which is different. But I have a note to myself at that bottom to revise this so that kids can know, where should I look for cardboard? Like I didn't get a new refrigerator, so I don't have a big box like Kane's Arcade does. But you know what they do have? They do have their mac and cheese box and their cereal boxes, and they have all sorts of cardboard that they might have not considered.
Their Amazon box.
Yeah, so I want to point that out to them, that have them looking around for those resources. So for you and thinking about how are you going to create this, my number one suggestion is to search for one that you really like. Maybe you just like the design of this one. You like the colors. Go to open it up and make a copy or recreate this using your Word document. I've seen them in OneNote that are absolutely amazing. As long as you have that cycle of learning, the explore, explain, apply, and you have really clear instructions, but not too many, resources packaged in one place, easy to follow, easy that any age could actually do this without having their mom walk them through it or their dad or whoever's helping them with learning.
Don't we all want that?
Yes. Maybe start off with a video walkthrough of what you want the kids to do on this. I do hesitate though, and I know it's hard with remote learning. It's this balance between over teaching and letting them figure it out. So oftentimes my instructions are everything you need to know is on that HyperDoc, and I trust that you will figure it out. You are a really bright kid, and I know you're going to figure this out. And you know what? It's okay if you figure it out the way you want to do it. I'm pretty flexible that way. No more am I having to have one perfect product that comes back. I need evidence of their critical thinking, and that happened for me in this HyperDoc, and these are linked. My final one is linked there. It happens in their synthesis of nothing to do, and what do they do when they have nothing to do. There was a writing piece in there. There was critical thinking about that video in the beginning, and then they had to actually create something out of cardboard and explain that process. And so there was many, many standards that I could have walked through on that. I collect it for evidence for grading all the way through the process. That first Padlet was my first formative assessment to check off who did it. The second piece was that writing piece. That was my next piece. And you can think about your workflow that you currently are using. At our school, we are a Google district. So that's why I keep mentioning Google products and Google Classroom and things like that. That's our workflow. But whatever your workflow is, you have to think through those details and put it all on here so that kids have it at their fingertips. Instead of handing out one thing at a time, here's one paper, here's another paper. And I always think about the kids' backpacks and they lose everything. Curate it all together in one place that has this logical flow to it that they can work their way through. Now, this lesson, this remix, if I talk too much and it was a little confusing, Holly, if you go to the next slide, it is actually a course in our new academy.
Yeah.
Fun HyperDocs, explore fun HyperDocs and learn how to revise for remote learning. So this, I actually do a walkthrough of my whole thought process. I gotta go into detail there. But in this course also, there are other ones that you might want to start your year off with, just to build community. Like I have one I really love about digital portfolios. For all of the digital work they do, I want them to curate that work themselves. And so there's lots of them on there. It is tool agnostic, and I can't say that enough. And I apologize that I am speaking in the Microsoft sessions all about Google, but I need you to think of this not in terms of what you packaged it on, but what your lesson is. It's all about that very first slide with the yellow balloons around it that really explained that purposeful intention you put into that design. You could build a website and make that a HyperDoc. I've built many on websites. You can use ThingLink, you can use Wakelet, you can use whatever tool to package all your content in one place. That's kind of the key to it. Holly,
so we have can you believe it's almost end of time, Lisa? We still have 10 minutes, but holy Toledo, who knew?
The bulk of this though.
There's a good question, and I tried to answer it, but I'm going to give it over to you. And someone said, do you ever use check boxes on HyperDoc so students can see where they are in the process? And I kind of said that the design of the packaging keeps them moving through, but maybe you have a different opinion on this.
I tend to stay away from check boxes because of what that insinuates, that they are just tasks. And I know where you're going because it's like organization, like they may not know where they left off, but I don't want them to ever feel like it's just a task to complete and they're like, oh, look, I checked all the boxes.
Am I done now? Am I done now?
Yeah. I want them to like be stuck in one and go back to the one because they love that video, and I want them to move around fluidly with it. My biggest issue is when kids jump to the apply, because usually they love the apply part. The apply is, for me, typically, it is not a series, like it is not write a summary paragraph about what you learned. That for me is not an apply. Or some people will give them, like in math, here's 20 problems. That's not the apply to me. The apply for me is more authentic. It's more, it has to be more of, now I learned this, so what, now what? And it's all about now in the apply, show me what you now know about this topic.
So can I give an example that I think resonates with people?
Yeah.
And apply would be something like this. So for us in California, and even if you're not in California, you can understand this. We do state history in 4th grade, and the kids learn about the 21 California missions, and they learn about the colonization of this state before it was a state, right?
Yeah.
And so apply would look something like, okay, we've just learned about colonizing a place. How would you apply that knowledge? Well, maybe you might go on to Flipgrid and give advice based on what you just learned to people who are colonizing Mars. So you're applying it to a new and novel situation, and that's called transfer of knowledge. And often in our like credential, that's what we do in California. We have a credentialing process to be able to teach. We don't talk about the transfer of knowledge. And when we don't take what we've learned and apply it to something new and novel, we miss the full cycle of learning. And then one other example is this idea of quadratic equation. The quadratic equation, like it's people putting in for B and C and 4A minus whatever, but we don't ever ask kids to, now that you know how to do the quadratic equation, apply it to something. And that's why no kid walks away knowing what the heck it's for.
I did one. I did a HyperDoc on quadratic equations. You know what we did? We did an X and Y coordinate over our school, the map of our school, and it was a scavenger hunt. It was awesome.
Oh my gosh.
And when they got to a coordinate, the clue was there, and they had to solve the problem to get to the next coordinate.
Right. Amazing. I can't wait to see. You know how I feel about the quadratic equation.
Yes. I have to show you that lesson. That was amazing.
Yeah. More than show me. I want to see it right away. Anyway, I'm going to go to the next slide because we only have 7 minutes left and we still need to talk about office hours, which Lisa and I will be doing after this to you can ask questions about HyperDocs. You can go in and look at a template and ask us what you might put in certain parts. And I do want to say one thing before we go to this next thing. When I first learned about HyperDocs, I went to the template and I went verbatim. I put in like my first HyperDocs were pretty basic and then I got comfortable. And then I tried something new, so anyway, go ahead, Lisa.
I'm just looking at some of the questions in here. Really good questions. Like what would be the apply in a Spanish lesson? And I think it's always, depending on what you've taught, it's a show me what you know. And I try to make it authentic. Like how can that item be then useful for someone else? And so sometimes it might be a vocabulary, make a vocabulary book for the dual immersion elementary class down the road. I connect the our dual immersion school with the high school Spanish classes all the time. Some way that they can make it so it's a really authentic piece. Now, when I say these applies and they sound so project-y and big and time consuming, I don't do HyperDocs every day. I do it when I want that content to stick. When I really want it to be something that
very good point.
I don't want to repeat over and over. Your daily lessons do not have to go to that extent with an apply. But the kids love the apply pieces. They love creating and then do something with it. With that good idea project, the one with the bees, the apply was they just built an Adobe Spark page and just taught everyone about the good idea that they researched. And then they showed everyone each other's good ideas. So it was the students were creating content for each other instead of me creating the content, right? I'm like, finally, I'm working way too hard. The kids need to be working harder than I am. That's
Someone asked me, how do you know all this about technology and education? And I said, I was trying to get out of grading homework.
Yeah.
That's all. It was selfish.
So lots of good comments. We do have our new academy has just been released a few weeks ago, and it is many courses are free, and you just have to register with your email and try them out. And it kind of goes into more depth. It does. We have our multimedia tech set courses are all free. You can see the difference between them, and that might be something that will really benefit you. We have a whole course with multiple lessons in it about remote instruction and how to assess and tools to use and all kinds of things with that.
So I will say I'm a kind of aficionado of HyperDocs, but I still go back and watch some of these things over and over. Just like, and sometimes I have them on, and I don't know if you know this, Lisa, but you have a couple videos that now they're on YouTube, and you probably since put them on your academy. But I would just have them playing while I was creating, and you would say blah blah blah, and I would go, oh yeah,
yeah. Well, that's nice. I can't stand to hear my voice, but yeah, that is everyone, right? When you're making these videos for your lessons now. I think the other piece to this, though, is you're not alone in this process. And I can't say enough of, and I need to say it's been coming up again recently this week. We do have one ask with HyperDocs. When we created them, we wanted them, the actual HyperDoc, to be free to everyone. We knew that these were time consuming to make. And we knew that if we could get teachers to make them and share them for free, that would save so many teachers so much time. That's why I skipped right to step 2 of file, make a copy, and revise and edit someone else's lesson. We do ask that you give credit to the original author. So hopefully their name is on the doc. Leave their name and say, created by Lisa Highfield, remixed by, and then put your name. And I love when I see multiple names across the bottom of a hyperdoc. That's one of my favorite things, to see that it's been revised many times. Our website, Teachers Give Teachers, is something we started to go right alongside HyperDocs. Is unfortunately out of commission right now because of our new site. When it moved, it did not like that move, and so we're working on it. Actually, it's going to be probably, I can't even tell Holly about this stuff. The new Teachers Give Teachers site is going to be amazing resource that nobody's ever seen before. We're really excited. In the meantime,
you sound like Donald Trump. No one's ever seen it. It's the best one ever.
No, it really is. You're really going to love it. It's just going to be a date. Think about like if you were shopping on Amazon for good books, only HyperDocs.
God, I wish I knew someone who would let me see it early. Anyway, it's time for us to head over to the office hours. No, you don't have to go if you have nothing to create yet, but if you still have some questions, this is a really great opportunity to have Lisa with us, because from now on, the office hours will be me, and I know a couple things, but Lisa knows everything. So we have to go to that other link because I have to stop recording here. And so if you go to infused.link Q to the same place you went, you can join us there. No pressure. If no one's there, we'll drink wine. No. So we'll see you over there, and thank you. And don't forget these 4 sessions will repeat starting again next Monday. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.